Hi, this is Danelle Stevens, Professor Stevens, and I'm going to talk to you about um, your data analysis, which most of you will be doing in the next couple of weeks. First of all, you're going to collect your data, and then you have to organize it, and then you have to figure out, well, exactly what did I learn from that data. Therefore, this screen recording is going to be about data analysis and also creating a display now that you are at that stage. One of the questions is, how will I organize my data, and what did I learn from gathering my data? Most of you used a device or hand wrote your results that you learned from asking questions of people. Some of you, your data went into a Google form, so you don't have to worry too much about the display at this point. But displaying your data is a very, very important step, and I always like that step myself because I try to get the data on one page or several pages so I can lay it out in the table and say, what have I got here? And I can look across the questions. Sometimes people answer questions in several different places in the survey, so you don't want to necessarily always tie their answers to that question, but just be sure that you have some way to display the data. So first of all, you're going to create a display of the data. The purpose is to get your data in such a form that you can begin to compare across responses and look for patterns. Keywords here are distilling and creating patterns and laying the information out so that you can find a way to look across the data and think about, what did I learn? If you made a survey, both short and long answers can be put in a data display. If you use Google Forms, your answers are already in a display, which looks like an Excel spreadsheet, but it is a Google form. First of all, for all data, I would make, even if you have interview data, I would make copies of the data, survey, drawings, notes, etc., and work only from copies. Do not mark on the original data. You might want to use it later in different ways. You might want to have other people look at it, and you don't want to lose it. So be sure to just make a copy and put the original in some space, safe space, like a locked file cabinet. That's someplace so that you are not working on the original. And remember that if you're making copies, pencils do not copy well. You may need to darken the copier sheets so that the responses will show up. And then make a master list of the names of all respondents and participants in your study. I would give each person a number. That number should be consistent across all data. For instance, if you're doing gathering more than one data source, and nobody, I don't think, in this group is, but if you're gathering from one data source, make sure that number, student number, goes across all those sheets, all the different data sources. Then I would make a list, a column of the student names down the left side, and next to those put the student numbers that you will see. I'll give you an example here. I have one from a student in Action Research, and she did a data display. Let's see, I just put it in here this morning. Let me get down here. This is a data display. It was a pretty simple survey. I think it was of second graders. But she asked them a question. These are the student numbers. And then she put their answers. And so then she can begin to look at patterns. Now, if she was coding this with numbers, she could create yes is 1, no is 2, a little is 3, or something like that. She can make some codes based on this. But what she has created a display so that she can begin to see, what are the patterns, what are kids saying in answer to these questions, and the questions are across the top, as you'll see. And this makes it easier for her to summarize what she learned. Okay, so the display is really important, and you figure out some way to make a display of your data. And you can use an Excel spreadsheet, as this student did, and then later you might want to disaggregate the data by gender or by ethnicity or some other pattern that you see in the data, and having a display like this allows you to do that, particularly if you have demographic information, like these two students, Jessie Happy and Joan Jolly. They their student numbers was 1 and a 2. This person made a display using on the student demographics. It depends on the kind of study you're doing and if that's important. And then you will use the other columns for data entry. You can read more closely here what I've written about that. So now that you have some sort of a display of your data and you've made copies and you're not working on the originals, you can turn to beginning to look for patterns in creating codes. And there's several ways that I have here. I have a YouTube video here you can watch, which is very slow and careful, and I thought it was well done. I think it's from Sweden, but it actually is quite well done in terms of teaching you some of these new words like coding, themes, thematic analysis, clustering, patterns, all of those words in terms of distilling the data. I actually like to, in the kind of data you probably may have, particularly with short answers in the interviews, I actually like to print it all out and cut it up into sentences. And if a sentence applies to two different themes, I'll rewrite the sentence. And then next to each sentence, I put the student number, so I know where that sentence came from, and I don't have to go back and look at my data. But then I start have a big table and make little piles and say, well, these group of ideas are over here, these group is over here. And once I get a group of ideas then that I think makes sense, I will then put a sentence below them and say these ideas are about, and these ideas are about, and then I can begin to look at the themes across my data. I've also will include in the weekly overview a link to this Atride Sterling article, and several of my doctoral students have used her work because it's so clearly written on data analysis in their dissertation proposals. So I think it's a little more sophisticated than what you need right now in terms of data analysis, but it actually is very clear on how there's numerous iterations, numerous times you've read the data, particularly the qualitative data, and then gradually you can begin to come up with the themes, and I think Atride Sterling does a great job with that. I'm going to stop now, and I'll finish doing your week overview so you can have access to this document and others. Good luck in your analysis. It's the fun part, really.